People hate him though. It's like, hello, Keller. We are just having a great old time back here. Welcome to the show. We are going to be doing some live sprints today. I'm very excited that we're all together in one
Hey.
room, right? In one place, not one room, but one place. So, yeah. So anyway, let's we've got a few folks here in the chat. Let's go ahead and do our introductions and say hi to our friends in the chat. Michelle, tell us a little about you and your awesome channel.
Hello, my name's Michelle Schusterman. I'm a young adult and middle grade author. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that my channel is on hiatus except for these live streams. But if you want to go through the backlog, it's writing workshops, traditional publishing chat, and writing blogs.
Yes, very nice. I know. Well, I think at some point every YouTuber like reaches the hiatus point. I think the only
Yeah.
person I do not know who has not reached that point is the horror geek, and he probably should. He certainly has experienced burnout, but the man just keeps on going.
Those people that can power through
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, credit where it's due because that's a lot of work.
really is. His show in particular. Oh, this is weird. Is anybody else just seeing a blank where the screen should be?
I'm going to go open it up, so apologies if there's a
Okay.
cross noise.
Yeah, that's weird because we don't have, looks like we've only got 7 people up. Okay. The horror geek says he sees us, so it might just be you, Mary. Okay. Yay. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Glad. All right, Mary, refresh. Or she can't see me say that. All right, here, I'll just say this. Refresh, Mary. We love Mary. All right. There you go. Solar flares. Okay. That'll do it, right? That'll do it for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Michelle. Robert, tell us a little about you and your awesome channel.
Well, my channel is The Story Detectives. And speaking of hiatus, it's been a long one, but the channel is not dead.
Yay! We just got these little keep us alive with our little live streams every week. So yeah. I love it. Very nice. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Robert. You got great writing advice on your channel as well. And hi, if you don't already know me, I'm Lisa Daly. I'm a traditionally published and indie published author of romantic comedies and nonfiction advice. And if you want to write a book you're super proud of and get it published, this is a great place to start. All right. So my channel also, I've not produced new videos for a little while, except for our live streams, but I have a number in production right now. I've filmed several, and we should be those are in the editing phase, and it should be happening soon. So I'm excited about that. All right. So what are you guys planning on working on today? Let us know in the chat. Michelle, what are you going to be working on today?
Well, Lisa, I'm going to be working on something near and dear to your heart.
Oh, good.
Email? Well, not in a good way, though. I'm working on my middle grade novel, and I am literally in the middle of a scene where a girl and her family are huddled up during a hurricane.
Oh, no. Well, let me, if you need any, well, you live in Texas, so you have enough experience with that. I was going to say, I was going to tell you, if you need any tips for realism, you let me know. But then I realized, like, you have plenty of you've been there. You don't need any. Yeah. So, all right. Well, it's kind of funny. I was literally having a conversation with my mom the other day because my son had said to me, like, thanks for doing all the stuff that you do so that I don't have to feel worried about the hurricane, essentially. Like, because I make the plans. He was like, I appreciate you kind of taking that burden off of us, which I thought was really sweet. And and I was talking to my mom about it, and it reminded me of this time when I was a little kid and there was a tornado in the area, and we had like a play date. So I had like a bunch of friends over, and my mom took us down to the basement. This is in Denver, took us down to the basement, and we had a little tea party with snacks. And I don't remember. And I remember like crouching like in the laundry room by the dryer, but it was fun. And later, like, this is like a delightful memory from my childhood. And my mom told me much, much later when I was an adult that she was terrified. She was absolutely terrified. She was just trying to keep everybody calm. And I was reminded of that, and like what a good mom she was, like making us all. Yeah. So anyway.
I feel like, yeah, being a parent has to make it. I thought about this when I was living in Dallas and we kept having all those tornadoes.
Right.
And I was like, I get so freaked out during tornadoes. And I was thinking, you know what? I bet if I was a mom, if I had kids here and I was forced to like project calm for the kids, it would actually help me push down my anxiety. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Or like if it happened when I was at school, when I was a teacher, I'd be like, I wouldn't be thinking about myself. I'd be thinking about, okay, just
you'd be thinking about the kids.
It gives you something to focus on, you know?
It does. Yeah. I do think there's some truth to that. Like I have like my little checklist and I got to get all my stuff done and we got to get this outside. We got to bring these things inside. We got to do this. So yeah, there's something to that. I totally see that. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I remember driving one time, going to pick up one of my kids from school, and we were from college, and we were like out in like an area with just trees, and there was our phones were going off like crazy. There was like this hurricane warning, and we were like, we didn't know where we were. We couldn't. There was no place there was shelter. You couldn't figure out. And I just remember like driving as fast as I from where we thought the hurricane was. So or tornado. So yeah. Okay, so Mary is going to be working on Seniors Gone Wild today. Woohoo! Or it might be called Raising Dad. I love this. I love this topic. I think these titles are fantastic. Yeah. Yes, right. Was it a Nazi prison camp? I can't. It's been so long since I saw the movie, but I know exactly. Yeah. Oh, such a good film. Robert, what are you working on today?
I am back on the craft book. It's very close to being finished, but I've been puttering along with it since COVID. My checklist has been a disaster. I've worked a bit on website design, a little bit on this, a little bit on art. It's like bouncing around whatever I could do. And not a whole lot of anything.
I feel that. I absolutely feel that. Yeah, I've got that too. I have like a few loose ends to tie up in the first sprint, just some emails to return real quick for clients. And then I'm going to be working on, actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for later. I am going to be working on a client small town romance today. So I am it's super cute. I really love it. I feel bad because I've like had all these like stops and starts with the hurricane and everything on it, but it's really
very valid excuse, by the way.
Right. But I feel like finally I'm like starting to kind of hit a rhythm with it again. So I'm very glad about that. Yay. Hello, Miss Texas G. We are super glad to see you here today. Howdy, John. Glad to see you. John's editing a middle grade novel and querying today. Very nice. Mahul, please tell us if I'm pronouncing your name correctly or incorrectly, and give us a phonetic spelling. If not. Sorry, I lost my train in that 4-word sentence. I lost my train of thought there. So anyway, so yeah, fantastic. All right, everybody. Well, let's see what is happening today. So who's ready to start with our first 5-minute warm-up sprint?
Me. I am.
Me too. All right, here we go. Let's get this up on the screen here. Dun, da, da. All right. So, whoa, we're autoplay. Hello. So we're gonna get started with our first 5-minute warm-up sprint. If you're new here, we're just gonna open up our documents. This first 5 minutes, just sort of get yourself warmed up, get your drink, do whatever you need to do. Stretch out those little fingers, because we're gonna be doing some 20-minute sprints right after this. So let's go ahead and get started with our first 5-minute warm-up sprint. Starting in 3. All right. All right. So how'd everybody do in our last in that last sprint? First sprint?
Not bad for 5 minutes.
All right. Fantastic. Ready. Very nice. John says tequila. Do 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 do. Lainey's here. Hello. I'm here. It's Wednesday. I'm going to write a chapter in my work in progress. Dang it. All right. We are here for that. Yay. Hello. Life is Beautiful, set in Nazi concentration camp. That's what I was thinking too. Such a good film. Really powerful. So love it. I just found out one of my clients hit the Amazon bestseller list in all 3 of their categories. So I'm super excited about that.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, really fantastic. So so I had a client. So I want to talk to you guys about this now, even though I know self-help is not your area. It's very much something I love. But I had a client give me tell me that he did not think that his book was a self-help book. It's a book about making your about how people feel at work right now, and how if they made some changes, they could feel differently about going to work every day. And so for me, I think any book that gives you advice or steps on how to change your life, whether that's in business, your finances, your, getting anxiety under control, getting your schedule managed, all that stuff. I think any book that allows you to help yourself without an outside, coach or an education or whatever, is a self-help book. But am I wrong? What do you guys think?
I would say, yeah, I think that's a very broad umbrella.
It really is.
Yeah.
Sure. And certainly, books might be shelved in business, or it might be shelved in, gardening or whatever. But
yeah, I'm trying to think of examples now. I used to read a ton of self-help. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I need to look up some of the self-help books I've read, because I'm totally drawing a blank, but the way you described it is the way I think I would describe it as well.
Yeah.
Even things that are in business, it's that is self-help in a way, if you're looking at getting ahead in business or starting your own business, or,
Right. Or yeah.
I would think how to is basically self-help. If it's showing you what to do and improve your skills, marketing, whatever.
Yeah. Right. It's a very big umbrella. I mean, it's a very big umbrella. So yeah, but I also think that sometimes people feel like there's maybe a stigma to self-help. And I feel that when I first started my very first book, I was like, oh, it's not a romance. It's got it's a chick lit at the time was more focused on the main character's career and all of that. It wasn't just about the guy. But it did, in fact, have a happily ever after. It did, in fact, it was structured like a romance in many ways. And but it was I had this, I don't know. I had this thought that somehow that made the book less than or whatever. And then I remember being at a reader conference and seeing all these people who were madly in love with all these these romance authors. And they were just so excited about these characters and the way that they talked about it. And I thought, how in the world could I ever think this was a bad thing? Why would I not want to be associated with this?
Right.
And yeah, right. And then I realized it was just the stigma of romance not being well, that's not real, that's not hard writing, or and it is right. Because essentially you're taking a book where everybody already knows the ending, and you have to make it new and original every single time. And the other thing is that I just don't now, as someone with a lot more experience, I just don't buy into the fact that when you're dealing with emotions, that and exploring people's emotions versus, I don't know, saving the government from terrorists, that those things are equally valid, right? That exploring emotions is also very important. So anyway, I so I don't think that anymore, but I do see how sometimes the stigma of a certain type. I see sci-fi people get like I feel like there's a little bit of a stigma with sci-fi sometimes as
Oh yeah,
well.
I think almost all genres have their,
Yeah.
have some sort of a, I don't even know what to call it, like not a bad reputation, but just
Right.
there's a reason for people to look down on it.
Right. Like anything that's not literary is trash.
Right.
And of course, anybody who doesn't write literary fiction is like, well, I'd like to eat and pay my mortgage. So, right. Like I guess well, we should stop being mean to each other, I think is our first lesson here. Oh, Mary's got a good point too. I'd agree that most Westerns are also romances. They just have more of the shoot 'em up stuff and a smaller love story part. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely I think there are definitely some elements of romance. It's funny too because Westerns are like one of those like little subgenres that keep looking like they're going to kind of make a comeback, but then they really don't. So let's see. John says self-help books don't have a good reputation, if you know what I mean. I wouldn't want to call any book of mine a self-help book. There are so many good self-help books. But yes, that's the reputation that's the reputation. Yeah, I think that's it. Go ahead.
Too many gurus got involved. The whole marketing concept and life coaching, and it became so overblown that it became almost like some of them almost seem abusive in their tactics. Like, you must do this, you have to do that. It turned a lot of people off.
I think there's some truth to that. Well, I think you'll find those people anywhere, though, right? They're on YouTube. They're
wherever there's a way to make money, they'll
they will come. The locusts have arrived. Yeah, I know they're sort of coming back to publishing, and so hopefully they'll go away soon. So anyway, all right, let's go ahead and do our very first 20-minute sprint. Let's get that up on the clock here. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Okay, so here we go. We are going to do our very first 20-minute sprint. Get those little fingers all warmed up, get your brain right, and let's go ahead and do 20 minutes on the clock, starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's sprint. I was like so like deep into what I was working on that I was like, that 20 minutes went by so fast. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it did.
I have no idea how many words I wrote, but I can check. How about you, Michelle? How'd you do on that last sprint?
Very good. Got about halfway through what's going to be a very short chapter.
Yay!
It's all like the tense storm raging outside.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Love that. Fantastic. How about you, Robert? How'd you do on the last sprint?
I patched up a bit of what I wrote last and added to it. I'm not sure how many words I added, but I think I have my opening segue into the section on dialogue pretty well down.
Awesome. All right. Fantastic. That's great. Gabriel joined us. Hello. We are super, super glad to see you today. Vixen, excuse me, I lost my, pardon me. Vixen is here. Yay. We are super, super excited to have you. One of the things that, that I have been thinking about a lot lately is this very new, well, I shouldn't say it's new, this extremely popular emerging category of romantasy, which is fantasy with a romance structure to it. So we get a happily ever after at the end. And obviously romantic fantasy, fantasy romance, like these have lots of fantasy books have romantic either subplots or as a primary storyline, but I think it's fascinating that this is something that is just kind of exploding, and it's very much reader driven. I mean, obviously any sort of big trend is reader driven, but that now you're like all of a sudden everywhere you go you're hearing romantasy, whereas like a year ago people did not describe it that way. So I always think that is fascinating. Any other kind of interesting book trends that you guys are seeing right now?
Romantasy is definitely by far the biggest. I mean, I'm thinking about the stuff we talk about at the book packager I work for, but we specialize in YA, so yeah.
Right.
Romantasy, but also anything that could be comparable to Colleen Hoover.
Right.
Like
angsty,
not necessarily happily ever after,
right?
Like angsty drama.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call that, but that
I know she does get called a romance, and I'm not a, like, I typically lean towards more sort of happy, positive stuff. So that's not really my, like, personally, that's not really my vibe. But yeah, it seems like some of her, even though it's often sort of classified as romance or kind of angsty romance, and there are always like relationships in the books, that it's not necessary. I mean, a romance, like by definition, has a happy for now or a happily ever after, and sometimes people are not happy at the end of those books, so they're alive. I guess that's a good thing. So yeah. Anyway, so that's it. But
I'm very surprised. No, go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
I'm surprised that we don't have other subgenres, horror-mance and romance pie.
Horror-mance is a thing. Yeah, in fact, I think, was it you, Michelle? Somebody was trying to convince the horror geek and I.
Yes. Because it pops up in every genre. And I think self-publishing is largely responsible for that, because there's so many people that want to have that romance in a story because it's really a part of every story. But they've made it such that the romance becomes the main plot, and whether it's a horror or science fiction almost becomes the subplot. So I'm glad they're defining it better, because it's a little bit confusing sometimes when you buy a science fiction story and all of a sudden it's like, well, this is a romance with a sci-fi theme.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, like the way that you tell whether or not something is a romance is if the primary story arc is the couple getting together by the end. And if you don't have for either a happy ending or a happy for now ending, they don't have to get married. It's not like it's not like the 1970s where we have to have a big white wedding at the end or it doesn't count. But for now, we know they're happy together. Maybe they're 23 and they're going to have other relationships in their lives. But at this point, we're happy. Everybody's good. They're supported by their community. So, yeah, that's a romance. I love this. Daisy says, I keep trying to push the term rom-sci for romance site. I think so. I'm thinking it. Yeah. What do they call it now? I feel like when I've gone to, sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't think there is a name for it now.
I don't think there is either, what I've heard anyway.
Yeah. The when I think about like going to NINC, where you have a lot of authors who have, they have to have written at least 2, and you have a lot of series authors there. I think the way that I've heard them describe it is sci-fi romance. Just like in the same way they've always described like paranormal romance or mafia romance or whatever, where the subgenre is like first. Oh, good question. So Miss Texas G says, all the talk about different genres brings me to the question I asked last week about, are books these days influenced by movies?
Yeah,
I think, yeah, in terms of like high concept kind of ideas and like X meets Y pitches, if there's something that like a movie that's really taking off and getting a lot of attention, then you're going to have a lot of success with that kind of a pitch. Like there was definitely a period of time in 2016, 17 when like Stranger Things was it was new,
right?
And it was just catching fire, and so people were using that to.
It's Stranger Things meets Twilight.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, and so if you did not, if you didn't get, if you're not familiar with X meets Y, it's that Michelle mentioned earlier. It's sort of common like pitching, like it's this meets this. So you're combining 2 maybe disparate ideas that are to explain something else. Yeah. So let's think about that. Stranger Things meets Twilight. I can see that. Different. Yeah, vampires in the 70s. So we were, or in the 80s. I mean, the Horror Geek and I are watching, what's it called? I think True Detective Stories. What's that called? Anyway,
True Detective. That's a show.
Yeah. The first one, I think the first season had like Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. Okay.
True Detective. That's right.
Okay. So we watched the first season, and then now we are apparently watching the 4th season because Horror Geek manages he manages the entertainment queue. That's his job. And so we went from the first season to the 4th season because each season is like a complete like story. They're more of an interconnected series than like regular kind of series, or interconnected standalone series. So I totally lost my train of thought.
Oh no! Wait,
the 4th season.
And like we were talking about X meets Y.
Yes. So in this particular season, they're in Alaska and they're at the time of year where they're in the dark for months, or a month where it never becomes light. Yeah. And the Horror Geek was telling me about, I think it was a film or a book series, but I believe it was a film that was about like that idea of taking, of a month of night and vampires, which I thought was like genius to kind of mix, this thing that already happens and all that. Anyway, it came out. It was better in my head before I forgot it and then tried to regurgitate it. Yeah. Anyway, 30 Days of Night. Thank you very much. Yeah. Lots of movies are just adaptations of books too.
Oh, tons, yeah.
That is absolutely true. I think it's always interesting to me because I think a lot of authors who start in books feel like at some point they would like to write screenplays. And I cannot tell you how many authors I have met over the course of my career who started as screenwriters and struggled to like make a good living and then began writing books instead. Yeah. So I don't know. That's like just a little grass is greener anecdote. Although I also know people who do both really well. One of my authors at Ocean View is Matt Martin, who has written every series you have ever seen. He worked on House. He worked on, oh my God, my brain is not doing me any favors today. He worked on Law and Order. He's worked on like a massive list of shows, and he writes really great books, and he is like a lovely human being. Anyway, okay, that was I feel like we should go to another sprint because for whatever reason my brain is like
no problem
not keeping
track. I also have a slightly different take on this, which we'll get to, I guess, when we come back.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead, Robert.
Well, I think there's been a lot of crossover between books and film. I mean, like, you know, we have had books that are turned into movies, and books are constantly influenced by movies too. And now we have structure and everything that's coming from Hollywood, where it almost boils it down to the synthetic Hollywood formula. And I think that is being applied to books because it's working for Hollywood. So they're trying to figure out a way to bring that into novels. So I think the influence is there. And I've seen novels where you can look at traditional structure or what went into openings of books, that certain things are just left out. And the story and the writer, sometimes that can work, but you can't always leave those things out. There's big gaps up to actors for dialogue and putting all that in there, and there's special effects. And so many books don't really cover what you have to do in a novel to make it come across convincingly. So I think we're getting a lot of novelizations that now become novelizations of movies instead of movies that are adaptations from books. So I think there's kind of a blurring of the lines, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. And I also think, it's been 30 years, 25 years since Save the Cat. And that has like how many authors have not written or have not read Save the Cat and at least considered its application. And then the other thing is, if you think about things like social media and the internet and all that, our attention spans have grown shorter than they were, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And so one of the things that I think is that you see that I really connect a lot more with, like episodic television, and even things like YouTube, is you have to have such a strong hook, like right up front with a novel now, because people will not let you kind of meander for a while in the same way that maybe they might have given you kind of more leeway if this was like 1975 rather than now.
Right.
So this is a really interesting thing. Daisy says Publishers Lunch is talking about a new Twitter hashtag for graphics for querying authors, Agents Guide, to help agents and editors figure out your project. Just shoot me in the head.
Well, wait, okay, so the querying author would use the hashtag Agents Guide to talk about their book?
For graphics.
Isn't that like PitMad already? How's it different than from the like Pitch Wars and all that stuff?
I feel like graphics is the key word there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
To help agents and editors. Are you talking about like a visual guide so they don't have to read it? That feels scary.
That does feel scary.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that. All right. So Daisy, we would love some extra info on this particular thing, so we can understand more about it. If it's what we think it is, that does not sound good. But anyway, let's go ahead and get next to meandering author equals James Michener. Let's go into our next sprint, and we will although I'm meandering author Lisa Daly today, good lord, let's get the sprint rolling. Let's put me out of my misery for a second. Let's see if I can regroup. All right, here is our 20-minute counter up. We are going to get started in just a second for our 20-minute sprint. Let's write like the wind. Here we go, everybody. Starting in 3, 1. Let's cha-cha. All right, we are back. So, hold on, let's get this up. So I went ahead and hopped on over on Twitter to take a peek at what Daisy was talking about. So let me just bring that up. All right, hold on one second. Actually, let's get rid of the banner first. Okay. All right, so let's show. I think it's kind of interesting. Okay. So this is it. An agent's guide is sort of a visual. Oops, hold on here. What just happened? Let's try that again. Agent's guide. Okay. So it's kind of a visual representation of a pitch. So here it's got, this is first in a duology, story of defying expectations, following your heart, going up against the impossible. And you've got it described as a fantasy here. You got some opening lines, the pitch, and then the tropes and themes. So I think it's interesting. Some of them are done pretty well. I like this one from Dan Z, Side Effects of Dying. His pitch is Quentin's in love, but there's a problem. August doesn't remember him anymore. How do you love someone who forgot you? That's a great little elevator pitch. And he's got some comp titles down here. You've down here, he's got the title of the book and queer romance, YA, 80,000 words. So this is this is a good visual representation of what it is he's going to be presenting to agents.
At the risk of sounding obvious, isn't this like talking down to an agent, like they can't understand what you're trying to present to them without giving them a visual aid?
I don't know. I would like to talk to some agents about how they feel about this. On one hand, it almost feels like, oh, they can look up the agent's guide hashtag and scroll through and see what they might be interested in, rather than having to read a bunch of pitches as far as so let's think of like PitchMat or whatever. So with that, you've got to kind of go through, and yes, some of them are also hashtag with the genre, but some of them aren't. And this, I guess you do get more, you get those quick details, but I don't know. Some of them are done really well. There was one down here that was, and I guess I won't call them out, but one of them had clearly did not understand what their genre was. And so it could help you maybe, but it could also maybe hurt you if you're
I kind of get that. And as Mary here in the last comment, it is kind of like a visual pitch for your book or a promotion for your book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was it. Like there were a couple in there where I was like, "Ooh, I'd read that." But yeah, I can see, like, on one hand, you think if anybody's going to read pitches, it's going to be an agent, right? But they are really, they get a ton of stuff, and I guess any way that you can use to make yourself stand out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I feel Daisy's. It's not that Daisy had. I see your point there. I completely see your point there. Like it feels like if anybody should be reading books, it's agents and publishers.
Yeah. Well, that's it. If you can't be bothered to read, maybe you're not really an agent.
Or maybe they're just so inundated with stuff. And I will say, whether or not you understand how to market your book, especially if it's your first book, is something that they consider. The fact that agents and editors and publishers want to know what your platform is, even before you have your first book out, is, there's something to that for sure.
It also just looks like helpful. Oh, go ahead.
I can see this being helpful to some people, and I can see it to some people being like almost insulting because you don't know what their personality is going to be. So I think it would probably depend greatly on the agent, how busy they are, or what exactly they're looking for.
Yeah, I am fascinated. I'm going to put some feelers out and see what people think about, see what agents think about this whole thing. I also be really interested to see how Publishers Lunch is talking about it, and whether, because Publishers Lunch is like a daily email that comes out to the publishing industry. It's a subscriber email, but they also have, they're also connected with the big database of agents and all of that. So that's very much their audience. So I'm really fascinated to see if they like this, if they do find it insulting. So thanks for bringing that up, Daisy. I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's a good example for writers to look at, because if they can narrow that pitch down, I mean, you have to make your query letter intriguing to the agent in the beginning. They are readers, and if you're not intriguing and posing questions in their imagination in the up front in your query letter, then they're probably not going to read very far into the thing.
Right. Yeah. The one thing about this is it is a really good sort of marketing exercise, that you understand what your genre is. You can clearly communicate your hook, that you have an idea what these things are about. And it's, this is not 1963, and you can't just expect that the publisher is going to stick with you for 19 books if you don't sell, because they believe in your talent. Like that, those days are over. You have to be able to communicate to readers. Maz says, the idea of having to market myself as a product is terrifying, especially being indie and disabled, but I haven't finishing anything yet, so it's a while away. You can market your books without so much putting yourself out there, front and center. But I think a lot of authors feel that way. I think a lot of authors are, essentially sort of quiet people. And so, I mean, I know when I wrote my first book, the idea of like having to do interviews about it, which is hilarious because look at me now. But at the time, every time I did an interview, I felt like I was like losing a part of my soul. And I had to like overcome that, in order to sell books. But it's not a natural state of being for a lot of people to be, having to do that. And it's unfortunate because the most successful authors, a lot of really successful authors are people who are just really, really great at marketing. And they're, and has always been true. There are a lot of really talented writers who are not,
have
a hard time breaking through. Go ahead.
Down on this is like, it first of all, it looks like fun to me because I like playing in Canva, so I can see myself having fun with this.
Oh yeah.
But separately, it looks like, okay, so not only are we responsible now for marketing our books instead of publishers doing it, we actually have to market our books to agents. We have to market our books before they even sell. It feels like more like, if this is going to become an expectation, then it just feels like more fucking busy work. Not everybody is good at this. Marketing is a skill that not all authors have, and we shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
We need to focus on writing. And I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to insult anybody, but I have to wonder if it's like attracting more people who would be better, their skills are better suited to marketing books than actually writing books. They're becoming authors. But we need people who are actually
actual writers. There's something like there is something really, really true and valid about that. Right, the expectation is there. I think this is why we're seeing so many influencers writing books right now, that they have that right. And in some ways, the ability to become so popular on a social media channel that you're an influencer means you do understand some form of storytelling, right? You understand a hook, you understand, tension and things like that.
Yeah, and that has to show up in your query letter. I wish I had the query letter that Stein rewrote for me. I think I had like 2 pages. And he rewrote the thing and gave it back to me, and he cut it down to like 1 page. And he had like an opening line, and he's like, "This is a question that demands an answer. This is this, this is that." And he's like, and if they want to see more, they'll ask. But you need to get your point across quickly and intrigue them, and that you have something interesting and that you can put on the page in an interesting way.
Yeah, it's true. I know it is a conundrum, and I do agree. I mean, do you remember, like, I don't know, Michelle, you've certainly been around publishing long enough, like where there is an expectation now that you are going to have social media and that you'll have a robust following. And that feels like first of all, that could suck up all of your time in the day anyway. But that the expectations that used to be that authors were expected to help market their books, and now the expectation is that we will pretty much do all the marketing of our books. Right. And that's unfair. Like, how are we supposed to do all that stuff all at once? For sure.
Yeah, it always was. You know, I think the fact that they don't market anybody who's below their A list, the fact that they can now push it off on social media, if it's not working, they can say, well, your social media is just done badly. Yeah. It's not our fault.
No, well, I will say I don't know how well social media sells books. However, I know TikTok sells books. TikTok really sells books, but they're really, really smart in the way that they sell books. And I think one of the things that's super cool is that TikTok has made it really easy for people to buy your book, like to shop for your book right at that very second. Gabriel asked a question earlier, and I want to get it to it before we go to our next sprint. Is it wrong if I write episodic adventures? Nope. Go ahead. As in fighting different enemy every day to get stronger, leading to the main enemy. Nope, that's reasonable. If you just like fell off the turnip truck and then beat the big boss, that's less believable, right? We want to see that. You got to lose a couple battles on your way up. Yeah. Fighting the main enemy won't be episodic, using the episodic adventures as stepping stones to get him stronger. Yep. That's exactly how I do it. Good job. And then Maz says authenticity seems valued as long as it's carefully curated, or so it seems, though that can be all social media if you're not careful. That's true. Well, here's a good question from Maz. How much do you divulge about your actual self? That is entirely up to you. There are some authors that will tell you about their miscarriages and their problems with their mother-in-law, and some where they're using a photo that is, that doesn't really give away a lot of information. And it's very much a pen name and a pen identity. And that's how it is. So the answer is however much information you feel comfortable giving. There is no rule that you have to do this. And there are successful authors who tell people almost nothing, and there are successful authors who tell people everything. It really just depends on how comfortable you feel in the way that you engage.
Yeah, make it sound interesting, but be careful not to overdo it. I just looked at somebody recently that had everything in there from his IQ to I don't know how much, and it was like, oh no, this is overkill.
Too much. Well, and the thing is, like, I know a lot of authors share personal stories in their in their social media or on their newsletters. And for me, I always think, like, if it fits with my sort of brand of being this kind of beachy author, then this might be something I would share. But if it doesn't, I probably won't. Yeah. Okay, so Daisy says, from Publishers Lunch, since spring, the trend has picked up speed. Author Val Robles, who made a guide for her own book, is now offering to create them for other writers at $5 a slide. All right, very good.
It's funny, as we were talking about this, a friend forwarded me that Publishers Lunch.
Oh, really?
Scanning it, yeah. So
that's hilarious.
That is around, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it definitely is. Doll's here to say hi. Hello. Thank you very much. We sure appreciate it. Miss Texas G, holy cow, telling people about their mother-in-law. Expect to have an uncomfortable Christmas dinner. Yes. What? Mom says, what? You don't want to know my shoe size? We do, Moz. But wait until right before it's time to release the second book. Oh, you are so welcome. You're so welcome. I didn't want you to think we forgot about you. I just didn't want to stray off topic. So yeah, I think you're right on track there. All right, guys, it is 12:33 Eastern, so let's go ahead and do one last sprint before we go. Yay. This has been super productive for me today. I'm very excited. All right, who's ready? Let's make the last one count. All right, here we go, everybody. We're going to get started in 3, 2, 1. Let's hit it. All right, we are back with our last sprint. I was crazy productive on this stream today. How about you guys?
That was great. I finished a chapter.
Yay, fantastic. All right, Maz has a question for you. Random, but does Robert have a Gambit figurine in the background? Robert?
No. There's some larger Sherlock Holmes back here. Up on the wall are the Justice Society, like classic 1940s DC characters.
Love it. That's awesome. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Well, if we don't have any further questions, let's go ahead and do our outros today. I am feeling good about this week's stream. I feel like I got super productive today. So since I had Michelle go first last time, Robert, tell us a little about you and your awesome channel.
Well, my channel is The Story Detective, where I put various forms of storytelling under a Sherlockian microscope and break down the craft in hopes of making the viewer's journey easier. More videos on the way. Hiatus will be ending.
Yay. Yay. Fantastic. So good to have you as always. Michelle, where are you today?
I'm in Portland, Maine.
Ooh, fun. Very nice. Tell us a little about you and your awesome channel before you go.
All right. I'm Michelle Schusterman. I write young adult and middle grade novels, and my channel on hiatus has a backlog of videos that is writing workshops, traditional publishing chat, and writing blogs.
Very nice. A backlist, right? We're going to call that your backlist.
That's right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa. if you have not figured this out by we need we should do a little thing with our I'm gonna look at maybe doing a different background for us for our streams. But if you are wanting to write a book you're super proud of and get it published, this is an awesome channel for you. I'm Lisa Daly, and I'm a traditionally and indie published author, which makes me a hybrid author. And I hope you guys all had a super fun time writing this week. All right. We will be back at our normal time next week, next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we will see you next time.
All right.
Take care, everybody. Keep those keyboards clacking.
Keep on writing.